people who are actually up at this moment. I tried to actually pick a time when my son wouldn't be awake. Because I figured, well, I have all of these things to do, all these posts to go through. I might as well do it when my son's asleep. But no, he's actually decided to wake up with us. So my wife is being very helpful right now, actually, and looking after my son. So you might wonder what the point of this stream is. The reason I'm doing this stream, if you can hear me, any of you, I think you can. I'm looking at the OBS and it's running. Is because I've taken up the habit recently, partly because of my career, of keeping up with trends in different areas, specifically tech. For those who don't know, I write software for my job, and I figured that I'd also include a lot of my monitoring of different political trends, different interesting posts, as you can see from the title, and just mix them here together in this thing here called Feedly, which is an RSS reader. So RSS, for those who don't know, is essentially a way that you can take a file, subscribe to it in something. You can take a file out of like a blog or something, or out of BBC News. Like I follow BBC News, right? And you can follow it, and it will send you the articles inside of the app rather than you having to say, if you've got YouTube, for example, subscribe on YouTube and have to go to YouTube. But obviously it's more than that. So like you can see here, I've got Hacker News. This is Y Combinator, which is really popular in the tech industry. But I also have other stuff as well, which is more down the alley of the people who watch this channel. Like I have some Substack blogs. So this is from the Distributist. I think we're going to start with this one actually. And so we're just going to go through some things that I find interesting. These are just things that I've tagged as well. Like the only one I've read here, I think, before is I think the only one that I've read here before is Letter to a Lonely Hearted Zoomer, which is about dating. The other ones I haven't actually read, and some of these are going to be like cringe takes. So I'm just going to basically give you my take, and I'll look at articles that other people are interested in. Of course, if you just send them to me in the chat, or if you, for whatever reason, want to have a look at them. So I am going to have a look now at the Distributist one. So let's do a Lonely Hearted Zoomer. Can I give better dating advice than the Boomers? Maybe not. So he's basically explains that he's kind of ill beforehand. So let's see. Moreover, the topic of dating is surprisingly controversial since it tugs at the core generational divide that separates the older cohorts who, quote, made it before things started getting really bad from the younger men who had to bear the brunt of the social media malaise and fourth-wave feminism. I sometimes wonder. I'm just wondering this now. I don't sometimes wonder this. How the boomers, having been born, say, in 1955, how they dealt with the issues during the 1970s. Because the 1970s were a pretty degenerate age. Where's my water bottle gone? I need my tankard. My giant exercise water bottle. I imagine for the vast majority it probably would have been fine. Maybe, because it was more religious. But I imagine in the cities it was quite difficult. So I'm not so quick to dismiss. I think it's unwise to dismiss the boomers immediately out of hand just because they've had various advantages that we didn't. Like for those who need a reference, I'm a zoomer myself. I'm not gonna dox myself, but I am a zoomer. I'm also married, as you could tell if you watched the beginning of the stream. But I do think they're worth listening to, and I think there is something to be said. I don't think I really disagreed with anything that Dave said here, though. Although, maybe I can add a bit of sugar to it, having lived that life. I actually did in the comments here on my Substack blog, which I've linked, a couple times at least in the communities tab on my channel. Yes, I do expect you to actually go to that effort because I'm not about to go and like drag up my Substack while I'm on stream. So, in short, the recommendations provided by the older set, boomers, don't work well anymore. Our society has fundamentally changed. Very few of the people trying to mentor young men can speak to their problems directly. This might be because of the conventional wisdom of our age that was developed either by old men whose previous experience was limited to a time of unprecedented prosperity, or bitter middle-aged feminists who don't like generally. Either way, the older set's understanding of how things work remains completely out of touch, and their advice is subsequently way off target. What was it? Someone said something really interesting, actually. I think it was Christopher Lansdowne. He runs a channel called Missing the Mark. Usually, what I've known him for is for his criticism of new atheism. But one point that he made is that the boomers, the time of the boomers, the 1960s, was a much more conformist time for the majority of people, and the people who got rejected were kind of these hippie types, whereas nowadays the standard Zoomer is kind of a hippie, and so they're getting rejected on account of that. But that's merely a hypothesis. You can go away. Let's see, chat. Yep. Okay, so media malaise. Did I skip ahead a little bit? No, I didn't. Boomer dating advice is easy to mock. In the boomer imagination, dating is just a matter of putting yourself out there, being a nice guy, and believing in yourself. Well, you see, I mean, in boomer work, I'll finish those four because I know that Dave is a lot is what Dave means here. So, in boomer world, America is just bursting at the seams with opportunity. Great jobs out there provided to give the company CEO a firm handshake. And every red state gas station is occupied by a virginal young Christian girl waiting to be swept off her feet by the next random stranger. There's no acknowledgement. I mean, I don't even know if that was true in the 60s. I mean, at least the virginal Christian young woman thing. Like, I mean, there's been degenerate behaviour, like, forever. There's no acknowledgement of the declining economic prospects. That is true for some of them, although I will say... I mean, I don't have this such a negative view of the boomers because I think maybe this is a British thing, but the boomers and the older people in my life actually, I think they kind of countenanced a lot of this. Actually, like my grandfather, he told me this a few years ago before he died, and he was I suppose to be great, no, not great, he'd be silent generation, and he said to me, I don't envy being you. Essentially, and he knew what was up, and I think other boomers in my life know what's going on as well. So I find it perhaps difficult to relate to boomers being so insufferable because most of the time they've just been like, you need marketable skills to get a job. It's sometimes life's gonna suck. I think actually one of the best things I heard out of a boomer was that when I was worried about not getting married, this one of them, I suppose, she is barely a boomer. She'd be very young Gen X, maybe. She said, it'll happen, because I was of course concerned because I was single, and it did happen. Stuff like that, and reassurance, right? Like putting yourself out there, being a nice guy, and believing in yourself. I can't really recall perhaps the blunt condescension and ignorance to reality in my own life, but I guess it's a common enough phenomenon because people complain about it all the time. Either that or we're just not listening. It could just be that the boomers are right and that like the Zoomers are taking it the wrong way. I mean, I'm open to either. There is no acknowledgement of the decline. Okay, yeah, I've already read that. There's no understanding of the institutional barriers faced by many young men. I will say, though, I hear a lot of people who openly complain about white people being selected against, say, for example, in tech. I can't say that I've consciously experienced that in my life. It could just be the fact that I'm not privy to the conversations going on in back rooms, but I will say that. Like, it's the same thing with... conservatives having their media throttled. It's like, I have no evidence of that. And I think that to complain about that doesn't really... it doesn't solve the problem anyway. Unless you were to complain hard enough to the government that they somehow repealed the laws around, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I mean, that is not outside of the realms of possibility. I think that things could change very quickly. I do think that like whining about it on social media doesn't really help in itself. It has to be something. If you're going to do that, you're going to have to do it in a targeted way, and it's got to be as intense enough that the government cannot, ignore it. One person simply whining about it isn't going to do anything, and I think it's. I don't know. I kind of get like it kind of makes me go ew when I think about it. I mean, I'm assuming that's what it means. If he means stuff like declining value of university degrees, then I mean, that's something that's a lot less surmountable. I think that I mean, if there's a huge number of people with degrees and the degrees are useless, then I mean, well, you have to figure out some way of distinguishing yourself. And I can speak for tech. I can't speak for really anything else. For tech, if you want to distinguish yourself, I'm pretty sure it's pretty different for most things. Because it's largely a matter of connections, I think, with other things. So for example, your ability to, your ability to work as, say, a maybe I don't know about a mid-level manager, but huge amounts of the jobs go out of the given to people, because of connections, and that's how you would distinguish yourself in many cases for things that are outside of tech. Because with tech, you just have your set of skills, your previous experience, and you have, I don't know, like a GitHub or something. But with other things, it's all about networking, and I think like that's actually one thing I do recall. The fact that people have fewer friends nowadays means they've got less networking opportunities, which means they have less job access. But I digress. I've been going on for a while. So more often than not, the recommendations of older people fall flat. I would say that, but I think there is something to be said about how human beings really haven't changed since the 1960s. They might be more degenerate, but they're degenerate in the same sort of vein as human beings always have been. There may be mass access to pornography in a way that there wasn't in the 1960s, but the way that people degenerate is going to be along the natural human tendency to decline. So I mean, I think that say, I mean, like, people, you could just like learn the Summa. Like, the reason I'm mentioning learning the Summa is there's like a huge section of it on just how human beings function. Like, over half of it is about how human beings' emotions work, how sin works, their effects, and you could learn this. And I mean, that's currently my aim at the moment. Besides, streaming again on Saturdays and a bit of mucking around with some other languages, because I'm kind of a language spurg. Just having an idea of how human beings function, which I think older people, by virtue of their experience, have a better apprehension of. I think that is worth listening to. But I don't think Dave is referring to that here. I'm just sort of spieling off about whatever I'm thinking here. That being said, I don't think the dating advice preferred by Zoomers is much better. From what I have seen, it's dominated by fanatically aspirational bread pill con men like Andrew Tate. I will say Andrew Tate has had the... Andrew Tate is probably the brightest of these red pill people. I will say that. Or fatalistic hand-wringing internet shut-ins, who we once called MGTOW men. Oh, people will stop calling them MGTOW? I guess I've been out of the game. Needless to say, such a detached perspective doesn't help many young men engage in day-to-day reality. It's more so revised, entirely focused on tactical details, solving strategic details. I mean, I think like actually it's good that he mentions tactical details, because that gives me the opportunity to go on a tangent. You need a strategy when you're coming across this, and I think he goes on about this a bit. He talks about this rather later on. You don't want to just like this is something that I realized quite quickly going to university. You don't just want any woman, because if you meet any woman contains, well, every woman. And one of the things that I think that men don't think about when they're in isolation from women is that a lot of women are kind of crazy, a lot of women are kind of unpleasant, and you want to exclude those. And you want to exclude those that have significant risks associated with them. Because if you marry like a crazy woman who has no qualms, ethical or even habitual, with just sleeping with other men and just being with them, right? You're gonna really step in it. You need to have, like, I mean, you need to have, I mean, like, people talk about high standards and stuff like that. I think that standards for most people often go out the window. I don't think that anybody really rigidly enforces them, but what you want is the habits within yourself to bring the kinds of women along who would be good for a long-term partnership, I think. Married millennial myself, complex feelings about perspective I hear from young men. Certainly as a relatively old person, I don't know the experience that they do in a post-Tinder, post-COVID world. Well, I mean, I met my wife through Discord. They know their own lives and their own situations better than I do. You know what, to be honest, as much as I smile and that sounds ridiculous, I don't actually think that's such a bad idea. So that, I mean, it really depends where you are, obviously. Like, if you're in, like, random gaming server and you come across gamer girl, maybe not gamer girl, but, you know, like a sane woman, in, like, I don't know, one that likes philosophy or something like that. I mean, provided it's, like, actual good philosophy, like St. Thomas, sure. So there's a certain amount of humility required in offering advice to this cohort. I mean, I'm part of that cohort as well. I will admit I have a lot of strength, so I think gives me a sort of a leg up over most men. Which, I mean, like, a lot of people could just, like, look at the hypergamy thing and say, well, you're tall, you're intelligent, you're white, you probably have no issues. And that might be true, yeah. I mean, I can see that being true. At the same time, that doesn't mean that my perspective is completely useless on this. I mean, Dave is tall, bright, and white. It's not that I don't know things are bad in the dating world. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter if, like, the mere fact that the dating world is bad shouldn't be disconcerting, because really being disconcerted by this doesn't actually help you. Actually, I just realised I might have some alarms on my phone that are about to go off. Give me a second. Ooh. Is it going to actually open up? Oh, yes, I do have the alarm. That's going away. Right. But you also don't have a bowl cut. I just seen myself in the on the stream. You know, like, I am married and I have a bowl cut, right? Like, you have no reason to complain about being unable to get access to women. Let's see. Where were we? Don't know how things are bad. Okay, yeah, bad. I literally saw it get worse during my decade on the market. Yeah, things have gotten worse, of course. I think having read this before, what Dave was trying to do was kind of soften the blow, because this entire article is basically telling Zoomers that, like, they're doing things wrong, and they are doing things wrong. This is probably a wise. It's probably a wise rhetorical technique. I'd probably not think about that and just go and just tell them, which would probably be a lot less effective. Nevertheless, some of the things I see Zoomers talking about online correspond to the mistakes I regularly see younger men. Yeah, of course they don't, because they wouldn't be mistakes. I mean, yeah, Dave of course knows that. Like, you know, if Zoomers were aware of the mistakes, they would stop doing them. Yeah, rather some basic wisdom that would stop a lot of these young guys from making big strategic errors over and over again. Sure, there might be some boomer takes mixed into my insight, considering, yeah, bad thing, yeah, right, like, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is basically what I just said earlier on. I remember from my very brief stint playing tennis in high school, it's the small technical things that really hold a player down. If I would lose a match, I would always focus on the big rallies. Then I couldn't finish, or that one time I got blown out by an ace serve. To my father's point out, the big moments where I fixated on really didn't matter. It's all the little mistakes, all the unforced errors. Yes. I mean, I wouldn't have had that insight, because, I mean, for me it was fairly straightforward. I'd learned. What I did was I spent some time learning a lot of the manosphere stuff, just because I wanted to know how to operate in that area. I employed it for a bit, and I just realised it wasn't really satisfying to use it after after a significant time in a relationship, and I just started to just be. I mean, bro, just be yourself, right? But yeah, I was just myself. But to be fair, myself was being modified all the time by lots and lots of prayer, lots and lots of spiritual work, and meditating and trying to actually overcome my vices. So I suppose, like, be yourself, but always be making yourself better. That might be a succinct way of putting it. Wow, there's 8 of you and none of you are commenting. Nah, there's 6 of you actually. The fact that I've got 6 viewers at bloody 8 o'clock in the morning is astonishing. I'm honestly surprised that the people actually showed up, because I thought this is a weird hour to be doing this. I know that the Americans are mostly asleep. Granted, it would be a Saturday morning for you, so maybe you are awake at like 2 in the morning and you're in, I don't know what, Ohio or something, watching me just go off about an American's post. Sure, if you suddenly became rich and astoundingly good looking, your romantic woes would be a thing in the past. Haha, that's where I have to disagree with Dave, but I'll finish his thought. But for the most part, the real way Zoomers are losing out is through small, ordinary, unforced errors that are sabotaging their otherwise very reasonable dating ambitions. I can provide a few insights here for the benefit of any young man reading, if I might speak to them directly. Well, if I elaborate on why I think that the romantic woes are a thing of the past, is because, you know, it's one thing to attract a woman enough to be in a relationship with her. It's another thing entirely to keep that relationship up. Now, of course, you don't want to be crowding the the context of a Zoomer looking for a relationship with additional information that they may not necessarily need at this moment. I think though, I'll put it here for the benefit for those who are in relationships. But really, you can be rich and unwise. You can be astonishingly good looking and unwise. Like, you could drink too much alcohol one night and end up with another woman, and then you've just completely obliterated your romantic prospects if you're in a relationship, because not only have you just got rid of your partner, you've also ended up with a woman who is intrinsically unreliable. You could, there's all manner of different ways that you could butcher your relationship while doing that. You could, in fact, even being rich and astoundingly good looking, you could end up having a propensity to attract the wrong kind of woman. That is, a woman who is interested in the rich and astonishingly good looking part and doesn't care one lick about your personality. I think that's kind of a rare woman. I think women don't tend to look at men in that way. But you could risk having like a gold digger. Like, you don't see gold diggers around homeless people, right? Okay. Now that the married old folks are cleared out, married old folks. Okay, I'm just a married folk. Have cleared out, and I'm speaking to you, the lovesick young man. I have some things to say. While I sympathise with your grief in the midst of maternity, I want to walk you through some common unforced errors that I see all the time when I observe young men in 2024. And this isn't a dig at your cohort. Yes, basically life sucks. The school system sucks. Everything sucks. But we have to get over these things. Like, that like life might be full of its imperfections, but I think that, at least insofar as the education system goes, it's a lot more present than it was, say, I could say 200 years ago, but even then you'd have like family who would educate you, you'd have the local priest or pastor who would educate you, but I don't think that there's any need to fixate. This is the problem. A lot of it is fixation, and to be honest, it sounds a lot like depression. Really, it's a fixation on negative thoughts, and the inability to overcome that, which is the real problem. Alright guys, there's one thing we need to get straight. Simping is a huge problem for Zoomers, collectively speaking. Yeah, I think I started out in a position of simping. But, I think the thing that kills simping, actually, is just experience with, like, talking to enough women, because then you realise they're actually, like, human beings, and, they don't fart sparkles, right? I'd hope that would do it. Zoomer yells at posts. Yes, exactly. Yes. Is my coffee cool enough that I don't burn my mouth? Yeah, simping is bad. I think everyone knows this. Solution to simping, really, I think... Well, why does... I mean, he gets into this, right? So it's like, I'll just read out the section a bit and comment as we go. Because if I recall correctly, he comments about this being rooted in essentially being a Kuma. Probably almost all of you young guys know simping is bad, but yet, in the age of the internet, young men have never simped for women more pathetically and slavishly. Maybe we just see it more. I don't know, sites like OnlyFans wouldn't work without this reality. I don't understand. I mean, I kind of do understand why someone would do that, but yeah, I mean, it's just porn with like particular people, I guess. Millions upon millions of men giving up significant portions of their life savings, functionally castrating themselves economically and socially, all for the approval of women who secretly hate them. I don't know if they hate them. Probably most young men know that these extreme cases are bad, but then they go out and simp more. I understand subconsciously lapsing into bad habits, but the persistence of these simp behaviours is evidence of a deep misunderstanding of why this sort of behaviour is so self-destructive. I mean, you're not really loving a woman when you simp for her, because if you simp and just... I mean, it's... You know, there's uniformity to God's will, which is ultimately the root of all humility. And then there's uniformity to a woman's will, which is constantly changing. Like, it's a kind of a pride, and it's treating... It's kind of like a feminine idolatry in a way. Because if you're going to simp, to a large extent, you're kind of subordinate to that woman's will. And that's disordered because you're supposed to be subordinate to God's will, not to a woman. And I mean, if you're doing it, especially for something like sex, I mean... At the basic level, simping is a type of male orbiting behaviour where loud public adulation is given to a female character, which is not reciprocated or acknowledged. I think it's a bit more than that, though. I think it's like I say, you know, it's subordinating your... I mean, in a way, it's like subordinating your entire life to something that isn't God. It's a kind of idolatry. The nature of the said female character could vary. She might be an OnlyFans model, celeb, prospective girlfriend giving you the cold shoulder. Yeah, or like you're the one woman in the friends group where there's like 5 guys, you know, simping and trying to be the person who gets in. I mean, that's a stupid waste of time. The woman is really. A woman is never worth this kind of behavior. Like, it could be. I mean, that kind of idolatry. I mean, the only exception would be Mary, but that's only because she's already subordinate to God's will already. So by following her will, you know, you're following God's. So it's not even really on account of Mary per se. But the pattern of simping behaviour is always the same, lavishing affection in the form of pharisex, pathetic. I mean, it's really weird as well. Like, you don't know this man, and he's just in your comments saying, "Hey, beautiful." I mean, like, how is that anything but creepy? Like, you have to have, for these sorts of things to have an effect, you have to have some sort of real rapport with the woman. And in in 2 of those 3 circumstances up here, this doesn't exist. The prospective girlfriend, like, I mean, that could exist there. But, you know, you have no rapport to a point where it would really matter to a woman. It's like, it would be like, just, you know, there's no real linking into her life when that happens. The simp debates his own masculine worth based on some strange perception that this public exhibition of male desire creates some kind of value in other men. Okay, that other people are obliged to respond to. I don't know. I think it's like desperately begging for attention, to be honest. In reality, these displays of futile desire fill other men with disgust and women with contempt. Yeah, it's kind of creepy. You know, it's kind of... I can see why... You know, like, the interesting thing is that as I've gotten older, I've kind of started to see the feminists' point of view a bit more strongly. It is kind of objectifying in a way, because when you're saying, like, "Hey, beautiful," you're not actually responding to the internal thing that the woman actually is, but you're really responding to just what you see with your eyes, which is actually the inferior part of the woman. So I'm kind of getting it more. Why is it self-destructive? On its face, practice of slavishly orbiting a woman may seem like an ordinary internet cringe, stupid, but ultimately harmless. Simping derives all worst aspects of sex wars. I don't know. I think like the actual misogyny from like some of the VUA people is kind of weird. Like, you know, people who don't actually like women. That's not great. fundamentally inverts the healthy male-female relationship. Sympathitude teaches men that sexual gratification is the highest good, and that their role is to be a support structure for the women they desire. Yeah, wrong. Depends what you mean by support. I mean, if you're like paying the bills or something, like that's one thing. I think that's a proper male. Something that a male could properly do in a relationship. It'd be weird if you didn't, but that might be a cultural thing. I don't think it is. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm going to leave that. I'm not 100% sure if it's actually biologically there, or if it's cultural. It's probably in some way biological. Conversely, simping teaches women that sex is the ultimate currency of the world. Sort of. Yeah. Because I suppose if all you're receiving is kind of cheap praise on account of essentially what you look like, nothing to do with the personality, really. Because either the woman can't perceive this because they don't know how much of a parasocial relationship the guy has with her, or literally because it's just the invention of the man's mind. The only thing that really remains constant in that is her physical form. That's kind of sad, isn't it? I didn't really think of like simping, because simping like on the part of the person who is doing the simping is kind of like, oh, I'm kind of cute, oh, I'm kind of in love, but really it is kind of, I mean, it is kind of like reducing the person to lower than what they actually are. It's a simultaneously kind of like an idolatry, but it's also reducing the person to lower than what they actually are. This is a total inversion of how healthy relationships between the sexes should be structured. For men, defining oneself in terms of attraction is enervating. The habit robs you of an independent identity by structuring your life through the experience of desire rather than practically getting things done. I mean, I've never simped to that extent that I think I've ever thought that, but I do know that, like, you know, you have like quite a raw experience of it, and it's quite present in your mind to such a way that it would get in the way of getting things done. I don't know if that's necessarily conscious though. There are comments. And the problem doesn't get better if the object of simping is entirely fictional, as it is in the case of the infamous anime waifu. I must admit, I'm reminded of you know, old friends of mine and people I see on Twitter who post about like, oh, I want the black hair one. Oh, like, I mean, are these like Barbies or brats that you're just passing around? I mean, it's no wonder people get like kind of, where women are kind of grossed out by it. I mean, it's nothing really to do with the woman that you're actually loving. It's really to do with her arbitrary physical characteristics. Although, to be fair, you could say the personality characteristics are kind of arbitrary as well. But they're more close to the true essence of a person, I think. I mean, I'm not saying that the body isn't the person, right? But the higher part of the person is essentially their I don't want to say intellectual capacity because that sounds like I'm saying like sapiosexual stuff, but like what most people would call the spirit, I suppose. But like, you know, the core of the actual person that animates the body, although they're interlinked in an inseparable way. But yeah. Fictional nature of the waifu makes like it more futile and more emasculating. This is often why, in a strange way, intentional celibacy makes men more powerful. I think it's much more than that. I think actually, is it? Well, there's okay. So there's lots of reasons why lust, this is I think often a manifestation of, destroys a person, and it's because it destroys their ability to go and, like you say, get things done, but it also makes them depressed. Like St. Thomas in his article on lust has a list of daughters, and you know, the ones that really stick in my mind is basically a destruction of their prudence, a destruction of their ability to stick to things, and depression. There are other things, I'm sure. I think there's like 8 daughters that he gives, and St. Alphonsus in his moral theology gives 12, I think. He gives a bunch of others. So you basically have to escape from that. When everything is said and done, men have the energy need to have an energy that is independent of women. It needs to be independent of lust. This is not to say that there is no situations where it's proper to venerate female form. Yep, of course. Sacred... yeah. As Simpson likes to put it, all successful relationships are like cults. This means that there's an internal understanding of the sacred built inside of the sexual union of the couple. I can't say I've consciously thought about that. When you build the relationship, you're building the beginnings of the family cult, and that particular spiritual relationship, the man does not orbit around the female orbits around the male. I mean, that's Evola. This is straight Evola. I don't know if that's correct. Like, the man has a certain authority over the woman, but that doesn't mean that the man is always completely unchanging, and the woman is the one that's completely changing, like Evola says. The dance between the male and female only works in one way. You don't sweep a girl off her feet by being her fan. You sweep a girl off her... Yeah, I mean, that's... I mean, yeah, I mean, that... I mean, this is just, like, social relations 101, right? Like, you know, in order to get ahead in a social relationship, you have to make people fans of you. Lacking focus. Okay, let's see if there's any comments beyond Zoomer yells at posts. The fact that I've actually retained viewers is amazing. So I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to start looking at tech ones, I think. We're just going to sort of scout through them. But I'm taking my time with this one, actually. Perhaps the less obvious mistake young men is participating in the dating market, general woman. Okay, so I'm going to go through this a bit quicker, because I'm conscious I'm going to end about 9:10 UK time. So statistical, yeah, they look at statistical perspective and try to make quality dating experiences by pursuing quantity. Successful women is hard. I mean, he basically makes the point, if I recall correctly, that women care about you actually talking to their individual self. And I mean, that's true. This is something I didn't realise as someone who was single, but really, women care about caring about them in particular, which is kind of a really obvious thing now I say it out loud. But I think it can't be that obvious, because the way that people think in statistics means that they ultimately miss this. And of course, you may say, well, of course, I don't have a particular woman to love. That is true. However, I think having that kind of commonality in what you're picking to go after sort of causes that effect in a woman anyway, even if you don't. So rather than just picking a woman, like just, you know, the generic woman, which is many things, you know, I mean, the average woman probably, you know, spends their time, like, scrolling through TikTok. They probably have some sort of humanities degree. I mean, actually, maybe not the average woman would have that, but, like, I mean, it really depends on social circles. Like, for a lot of the people I imagine who are watching this, I mean, first of all, if you don't have a degree, you're immediately at a disadvantage going for women with degrees. So, I mean, it might actually just be worth getting a university degree just to have that advantage, even if you don't need it. Because, I'm saying, you know, go the cheap route, right? I mean, in the UK, we don't really have the system the US has, where you can go, you know, 2 years to what you call a community college, and then you go off to a university for a year. But, you know, trying to game the system just so you have that ticket might actually be worth it. Like, you don't even have to, like, spend all your time studying. Like, when I was at university, I spent perhaps 3% of my time actually studying the degree course. I was actually thinking about this the other day, because, you know, there's often something said for 10,000 hours by many people in certain careers. And I was thinking about my rough amount of time writing software. I'd say in my life I probably spent about 5,000 hours writing software. And I came to the conclusion that across both my bachelor's and my master's, that had in total about 300 hours of writing code, which is, you know, that's rather naff. Most of my experiences come from my jobs now, and before that, much of it came from my teenage years when I was tinkering around. Right, like a university degree isn't going to make much of a difference beyond being, you know, sort of a stamp that HR knows that you're not completely incompetent, and you know, it gives you a certain social advancement. It's not going to provide you with a quality education. You have to do that yourself, unless you're at like Oxford or Cambridge, in which case, I mean there's part of me that wishes I went to Oxford and Cambridge, not just because of the ego boost, although that's one of the things that plays on my mind, but also because the way that they structure their education is a lot saner than the modular system. So the way that they do it at Oxford and Cambridge is that they will have one thing that you do at one time, and you'll essentially work it as like a 9 to 5 job where you'll just be reading and reading and reading and doing and doing and doing. And I think that's a much more effective approach than, say, having 4 modules in a semester and then you have, say, 3 assignments. Because 3 assignments is not enough to develop your skill in a certain area. You need more like maybe 12. I mean, like the thing is that a lot of these universities are limited by the amount of staff that they can bring on. So I suppose it's not in their best interest to do that. But if you want to get really good at you need to like spend a lot of time doing it and a lot of projects doing it. You know, like I got good at what I do through writing a lot of code because I wrote a lot of projects. But that's kind of a digression. It might be worth like just going to the university just to get into that market. But otherwise, you're probably restricted to women who aren't university educated. I don't know if that makes like that probably makes a substantial difference, but I'm not conscious of it because like everyone around me, actually not everyone around me, everyone of my cohort I'm around has at least a bachelor's degree or they're on the way to doing it that I'm aware of. There might be a couple that aren't. Things like successful women is hard. Luckily, there's a lot of women out there. Therefore, best way to get women is play market. So therefore, we need to buy as many cheap lottery tickets as possible and appeal to the median in order to get results in the aggregate. Yeah, I mean, like one thing that I found is that like knowing the markets and knowing the specific sectors very well, that can be leveraged, and it's the same thing. I imagine with women, like if you behave in a manner that is fitting to say actually seriously Christian young women, you're going to have a much greater level of success with that than just playing generic man who is seeking to attract. I mean, like what is the average woman nowadays? Like a depressed woman, like that. I mean, a depressed woman. That's all it is. Yeah, because they don't even necessarily like. Some of them go out, some of them don't. Some of them are thoots, some of them are not, but a lot of them are just depressed. Who are social media addicted. So that is your aggregate woman. But why would you want to be with that woman? There's not enough experience that women can be bad to know that this is stupid. This makes sense, statistical point of view. The existence of one giant dating market. Actually, I'm not even necessarily sure that this is. I suppose it is kind of real because I was going to make the nuance of really how dating works is that you have pods of different people who sort of interact with each other, and there's some outreach outside of that, but really what predominates are you have a group of friends, and there's the interaction. No one is really atomized, and so you can leverage that. But the same thing exists in business, right? Like companies. They exchange employees inside of their sector. Like a Google software developer isn't likely to go and work for work as a HVAC engineer for some random electrical work HVAC for some maintenance company. So maybe it is. This results in feast or famine situation where some are too good, too much, or gives some people too much and some too little, which is polygamy and hypergamy. I mean this. No, I'm not gonna actually. For anyone watching this process to take root online over the last several decades, it's fairly clear the existence for general dating free for all isn't doing anyone good. Yep. Yeah, I mean really like targeting particular women. Yeah, IRL social organisations still exist. You can go through these social organisations and meet people, and that will provide you with a much better access to women, because really men tend to think in a very, I suppose, objective. I can't believe I'm saying this. I started my YouTube channel like attacking feminists, and now I'm going to say this. Like men tend to think in a more like I suppose a particular way. Like we think about very specific traits and very specific features, whereas women, at least in theory, at least from what I understand from other women, don't think in that way. They tend to consider the whole person, or maybe they're just making that up. My son is at the door. Um, sorry, that took me out. um, yeah, like, having the ability to get to know a person before you date them is, like, that's an advantage. Not having male friends. Yeah, you don't have any friends, bro. Like, your bigger problems, and they sort of build off of each other. I've been going through this article for nearly an hour. Not having a sport. Okay, this is one thing I didn't really do as a kid. I did a bit of rugby. We're talking about actually doing this with my son at the moment, like sports. Like my wife is very keen on getting him into football, but the problem with football in this country is that the parents get really overly involved, and that portrays kind of like degenerate activities. I don't necessarily want my son witnessing that, so I'm thinking if I get my son involved in any kind of sport, it'll probably be cricket or rugby, for the sake of the fact that the parents are going to be more reserved. At least if they're white. If they're Indian in cricket or Pakistani in cricket, all bets are off. Maybe rugby then. But yeah, I didn't really play sports that much. I played rugby a bit with the team. I kind of became a meme at one point for playing this like Indian sport called kabaddi, where I just sort of like the idea is that you run around and you try and dodge the people around you. And I just decided, well, I'm larger than most of the people here, so I can just walk through them. And so I just yelled kabaddi, because you yell kabaddi, you go kabaddi, 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 and like dodge around the people. I just went kabaddi and like ran in a straight line. Yeah, I didn't win. I didn't win, suffice to say. Yeah, I can't comment on like the ability to develop a skill playing sports per se, like what he's saying. Risk, teamwork, sacrifice, and conflict. I think that like a kind of a quasi monastic existence would also do this. Like teamwork, I mean, maybe not teamwork, but certainly sacrifice and certainly conflict. Maybe teamwork insofar as it pertains to liturgy. Risk insofar as it pertains to faith, I guess. I mean, I'm kind of pushing this one, I think. Yeah, but I can't really comment on that. Not having energy. Yeah, golden retriever man, goofballs, criminals, artists. What do they have in common? Energy. Men are largely stingy with energy. To them... Okay. I'm kind of a... Yeah, okay, so energy. Men are largely stingy with energy. To them, nothing is really worth doing. They simply refuse to exist in this place. In this plane. On this plane. The average human male walks around as if he's having to breathe as a chore he has been unfairly tasked with. Yeah, dude. Boring. Cultivate energy. You've got to be energetic. Not having a plan, yes. I mean, I think we've kind of gone over this. Is there any comments anybody would like to make? All, like, 5 of you that are watching? Oh! Why do you think most women are depressed? I don't get that impression myself. Guess. Because to be honest with you, I mean, like, most women, from what I can tell, are facing really bleak, like, prospects in the dating market. Maybe not so much so when it comes to the job market, but still, like, it doesn't look good for women who want to have children and want to, like, talk to men, because the way that men generally are is kind of cringe. Also, like, the amount of like the time they spend on social media can't help. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that because we've been doing this for an hour. Let's do some tech ones. Right. So, I thought this one was interesting. It's from BBC News. Apple is to pay $95 million to settle a Siri listening lawsuit. So, you know how people were kind of worried that that Siri or Alexa or any of these things were listening to people? Yeah. So they're willing to pay out $95 million to settle a court case over this. I mean, so like claimants have also alleged voice recordings were shared with advertisers. Like, how many times are you guys watching? Have you said something or had a conversation with somebody in the room, and then I don't know, maybe a couple hours later, you're all of a sudden getting recommended stuff on YouTube that is related to that thing. That's quite a few, I imagine. So, big lawsuit over this. It's kind of interesting that, I mean, to be fair, like, what is 95 million to Apple? Probably not much, but the fact that they're even willing to pay that rather than just, like, completely crush the person and make an example of them is pretty interesting. Because if they weren't doing it, why wouldn't they just set, like, a legal precedent? Why wouldn't they just, like, yeet the person out of existence? Because they could do that. I mean, they could hire all sorts of lawyers to do that. Claims say tech firm recorded. Okay. Class action lawsuits whereby giving. Yeah, I do think that it's quite interesting that this has happened. This is something that just struck me as something that was worth bringing to people's attention. The fact that Apple is willing to settle these listening lawsuits with this kind of pay. Because, you know, what's to stop Amazon doing this or Google? You know, it might be worth looking into. You know, I don't see why you couldn't, you know, monitor the connections through your modem. I mean, this could be magical thinking because I'm not experienced in terms of like network maintenance. But one thing you could do is just monitor your hub, your router. I kept thinking modem for some reason. See the find the IP address for your Alexa or something, and just have a look at the packets that are going in and out, and like see if there's anything interesting there. I mean, this could be, you know, like I say, this isn't my area of expertise, but that might be a fun thing to do, and you could maybe do like a lawsuit along that kind of level if you really wanted to. Judo is great as well. Yes. Okay, I guess I got like 2 viewers now because I switched to tech. Oh well, my other stuff is tech. So we've read this. I'm gonna go and look at something else interesting. Spirituality. Oh, I have a feeling this is gonna make me cringe. Spirituality is secure attachment. When God becomes safe to love. Okay. Let's have a look at what this fella says. This was posted to Hacker News. So it's cosmic erotic humanism. I mean, bloody hell. Soul-making Dharma, right? So, like, one of the things that goes on in the tech sphere, at least publicly, is that a lot of the tech people are really into these kind of wacky, I don't know if they're pseudo-dharmic ideas, but like weirdo spirituality, kind of hipster stuff. I don't know if it's actually legit, but let's see what mind they're on. Because I mean, I've seen some of this crazy stuff, like some of the stuff that like the rationalist crowd come up with is like, I think my wife might have moved it. Yeah, I got a bunch of free books actually from one of these startups. Some of you might have heard of 80,000 Hours. I decided that I was going to spam different email addresses that I had and just get a bunch of their free books. So I thought it'd be funny. And this one is on effective altruism. I'm kind of tempted when I got some time to just go through it and like dunk on it. And this is their like problems for the future of humanity book, which is you know, quite large. Mostly things like pandemics, nothing to do with like H1Bs or anything like that, or anything interesting like the destruction of effective altruism. Like nothing like that. Right. A normal human psyche is wired for connection, constantly moving towards intimacy with others. They are? Okay. When we describe someone as a loner, we're often witnessing avoidant attachment and action. Okay, psychology stuff now. This isn't a judgment, it's a recognition of how profoundly our attachment is. Okay, like, but why did we start with this? It's because it's part 2, I suppose. Can I be bothered to track down part 1? Let's have a look further. Understanding spirituality through the lens of attachment theory. Yes, we're supposed to be like attached to God, I guess. I don't know if attachment theory necessarily works that way. My wife's a psychologist, so she'd be able to tell me. But she's not in the room. She's currently playing with the little man out there. I don't know if you can hear him. Nature of attachment. Spirituality at its core is our attachment, is our relationship with reality itself, God. you mean. Just as a child develops patterns of relating to their caregivers, yes. Existence. Why can't we just, like, personalize it, just call it God? I mean, if the spirit is something that is not, like, constituted of physical things, right? If it's an actual quality that's present in a thing, regardless of the configuration of different matter. Hey.
Sorry, he was knocking on the door.
Hello. Hey, Bevs, would you say that... would you say that...
Yeah.
Would you say that attachment theory pertains to spirituality in any particular way?
No, I would say it's more evolutionary psychology.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like rationalist kind of nonsense to me, but I'm going through this article on it anyway.
What? You're reading
yeah, it's about...
You are,
Hello? Can you... Like, I'm now alive again. Sorry. My son decided to press the power button on the computer as I was streaming. I don't know if this is actually getting through. Sorry, just give me a moment. I'm just checking. Decided to press the power button on the computer as I was... Yeah, so that was why that was. He just pressed... Can you, like, take him out?
Okay, go on.
Yeah, can you take him out? Like, this is... I'll tell you what, he walks in. I mean, I'm sure you've just heard it. Yeah, and he bloody well comes in and presses the bloody button, right? Can you...
Yeah.
Thank you, babe. Being a parent, eh? Where were we? Oh, yes, spirituality. Well, I mean, I hope you guys heard it. Yeah, psychology wife reckons that, actually, no. That isn't how that works. Okay. There we go. Spirituality at its core. Is it actually going through it? Yes, it is good. Okay, spirituality at its core is our relationship with the reality itself, existence, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so, like, if we have an immaterial mind, then that means that the existence has mind to it. So it doesn't really make sense to call it existence as much as it does God. Although God, provides existence to things. In psychology, attachment theory, the basic sense of safety and trust, securely attached child is safe to explore the world, blah, 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 blah. Unsafe, unloved, yep, okay, so strategies reflect attachment disorders, so, like an avoidant attachment means that somebody, avoids intimacy. Insecure attachment leads to a lot of, like, weird behaviours. Secure attachment is, like, proper emotional regulation. These same patterns play out in our spiritual lives. What does secure attachment in reality look like? Feeling safe to experience whatever arises. It means trusting that reality is fundamentally reliable. It means that, okay, a place of okayness even in difficulty, okay. We might even say that the mind of the Buddha is the mind of cosmic secure attachment, a perfect trusting of the reality of nature itself. I thought that, like, one of the core tenets of Buddhism was that nothing actually truly exists. I mean, like, how could you describe reality? I mean, this could just be my grug brain, like, lack of understanding of Buddhism. But yeah, it doesn't mean all experiences are pleasant. Well, yeah, things are hard. Securely attached reality becomes clear that no experience is wrong to have. What? What the hell does that mean? We are wholly welcomed in our feelings, our thoughts, and our way of being exactly as we are. There's no prerequisite state we must achieve to learn. I mean, it's kind of interesting, like, because Evola is, like, the foremost scholar in the West of Buddhism, and his entire point is, like, a Pelagian, like, mass pursuit of, like, ascending up towards like the highest state. That love is already here, constantly available, needing only our remembrance. No experience is wrong to have. How does that follow? Like, how does it follow that, like, you don't need to... There's no prerequisite state we must be in order to... Actually... Yeah, I mean, even this, like, assumes a kind of an earning of love. I mean, this is just making clear to me, like, how stupid the idea of, like, completely unconditional love is. I mean, and by that I mean like states of grace. I don't mean like the grace of existence. Like we don't provide anything to God, but like the idea that like everything is permissible because we're loved. I mean, okay, maybe I'm misinterpreting this. To be securely attached to reality means becoming clear that no experience is wrong to have. What the hell does that even mean? We are wholly welcomed in our feelings, our thoughts, and our way of being. Like, okay, so we can do whatever we want. Is that what is being said here? That love is already here, constantly available, leading only our remembrance. Okay, I'm gonna move on and see if I can like. This lens helps illuminate many spiritual phenomena. Consider the common experience of feeling abandoned by God during difficult times. Just as an insecurely attached child may feel abandoned when their caregiver steps away, our spiritual life can mirror these other. The difference between becoming bitter and deepening your faith during times of challenge lies in our capacity to include the breakdown of our relationship with reality through inclusion, discovery, more complex wholeness. Okay. God, as I heard recently in a Catholic Mass, is always facing us, though we so often turn away. Yes, in a way. Some would say that there is a certain number of chances that one gets. Like a securely attached mother, reality God remains present, ready to repair, connect, love, and attune. Right, but even the most loving mother would cut off their son if he started killing the other kids. Our task isn't to earn this love, but to develop the capacity to receive it. To stay present even when it challenges or shatters our familiar views of the self and world. Okay. I mean, like, I suppose that's true. Like, we receive love, but like, what are we doing? Like increasing the separation from decreasing the alienation from God by cutting away our sins. Capacity to receive it. I mean, that's what sin is. It's an incapacity of retaining a state of grace, or it's like, it's the cutting off of the state of grace. To stay present even when it challenges or shatters our familiar views. Okay, like, but what does that even mean? Like, oh, it's going to shatter my familiar views. Like, yeah, but what does that actually mean in bloody English? Does that mean that God is real? Does that mean that the Trinity is real? Does that mean like the Eucharist, like God's body is like truly present? When this capacity is disrupted, we often find ourselves caught in familiar traps, turning spiritual practice into yet another way to prove our worth, seeking like, okay, whatever. Yeah, okay, like, fair enough. Like, we should avoid Pelagianism in the spiritual life. Yeah, we're not going to make ourselves holy. That doesn't happen. God makes us holy by granting His grace. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't do anything, because these spiritual practices are the means by which the grace is often received. Particularly in the reception of Holy Communion and in the sacraments. The path to healing this disruption leads paradoxically through a very bit I think the thing that's irritating me is that this post is like full of buzzwords, and like it immediately just makes me think he's kind of like a hipster kook kind of type. And he may not be saying this at all, but it's kind of hard to override the emotional triggers there. Pyrrhus from Epirus, could you tell us about the Order of St. Elias and their mission? Well, I can't tell you about the Order of St. Elias, but I can tell you about the network of St. Nicholas Tavlich, which is what I'm working for. Which is, basically, we exist to provide ex-Muslim converts to Catholicism with education and, with brotherhood, essentially. That's our main mission. Is there anything else that you'd like to know about it? I can talk about that a bit further, but I'm going to go through the article. If you don't, I'll tab back in a minute and see if you've got any questions. To understand how healing occurs, we must recognize a fundamental truth: safety precedes growth. What? No, like growth often. Can you not turn the door? Remember what happened last time?
Sorry, I need to find the shoes. I'm taking them out for a walk.
I think they're on
There's
the.
only one shoe there.
This is why I got up early to do this stream.
You woke up.
Yeah, I don't know where it is. I can't see it. Sorry, chunks. Don't know where it is. Go on, little man. Go, mummy. This has been like a really hectic stream. Let's see if there's a live chat. Actually, I got. Okay, yeah. Like you haven't asked anything further, so. Okay. Well, I mean, like one of the ways that you often learn is by being thrown completely into the deep end, is what I was going to say. So I don't know if that's true. So like actually, in fact, that's completely wrong. Now I think about it even further. I need to find the place. Yeah, we cannot open it until we feel fundamentally safe. I mean, that's not what I was reading, but it's similar enough. There's two distinct periods in the spiritual life of a really developing Catholic that are intense but are necessary, and that is the dark night of sense and the dark night of the spirit. And this is, like complete, like, I mean, it's intense, like spiritual blackout in both of these, especially in the dark night of the spirit. The dark night of sense is a bit different. I think that pertains just to, cutting off worldly attachments, whereas or like more earthly attachments, whereas the dark night of the spirit pertains to things that are a bit more in depth. It's been a very long time since I've read it, and these are necessary, and I don't imagine people feel particularly safe in those. Okay. Safety means safety to experience whatever arises. Okay. When we feel secure enough, our natural... Like, what do you mean by secure? Bloody hell. What does it even mean to be secure? Like, okay. Okay, like, okay, so what could he mean by security? So, safety means, like, I'll experience this and God will carry me out through the other end? I mean, is that safety or is that faith? Because safety, when I think of safety, I think of more the experience of being unable to be hurt. But you can be in a certain sense. You can't be terminally damaged, but it's going to hurt. Our natural capacity for love and connection begins to unfold naturally. Our defences, where the spiritual materialism and perfectionism will withdraw, gradually soften. We begin to trust the raw process of life itself. Well, I mean, yeah, but like, what does that even mean? Like, good life, bad life, or just life? Like, I just do things and then like, it's kind of like a separation of cause and effect. Like, I could just live life and I'll just sort of get better somehow. Like, no, it needs to be more than that. This understanding transforms our approach to spiritual practice. Rather than chasing particular states or insights, we focus on building a secure relationship with reality. Why am I reading this? Is anybody actually interested in reading this? This is kind of like kind of annoying me. Shall we switch to another one, chat? Press 1 for another one. Press 2 for keeping this one. Actually, I'm going to see if there are interesting comments. Let's see if they said anything interesting. Really useful word, imminence. Charles Taylor. Secular Age. Actually, I've heard good things about that book, to be fair. This article seemed like you're talking in circles that have a really tight understanding what the hell this guy's talking about. I think it's just AI slop. I don't know if it's AI slop. Spirituality is not universally a belief in reality, but mostly as overloading the word. I always wondered what feeling like I am something in something. It is a standard human experience. I'll gang the chat. Do we want to go over this? Yeah, let's skip it. Yeah, let's skip it, Faxon. It's annoying me. Okay. More tech stuff. Let's have a look at the tech stuff. Okay. Morning routine, boring. Software design is knowledge building. Yeah, let's see what the limits of growth is. That looks interesting. Oh, okay, this is quite short. Computation and the model of human predicament. In the American Scientists discuss World 3 model, limits of growth. As a way of better understanding the inner structure of the model. Program relies on... Oh, okay, is this like a game or something? Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of cool. So I guess it's a model that models the growth of things. Oh, that was really insightful there, Elliot. Whee. Wow, that's kind of boring. Well, I mean, there you go. Here's me thinking it's going to be an interesting article to go over. That's done. I had a feeling this one was going to be cringe. Which one would you guys like to go over? We've got 20 minutes left. Anybody have any ideas of which one they want to have a look at? I'm thinking software tutorial one's going to be boring. The LLM screwed us over one. That's I mean, that's basically just things like some tech guy tried to set up one of their websites using this using something called AWS, which is used to host websites and various web services. Used ChatGPT for recommendations on what type to go for. Went for the wrong type. Had their server deleted. That was what that one was based on. How do I learn marketing and sales? I don't know. Let's see what people are interested in, if anything. New laptop, software designers. Okay, that one's gone. Do we want to go for Warren Buffett? I don't think I'd have anything to really interpret there. LLMs locally boring. Tech debt. Evidence-based. Oh man, I'm sure this is. Let's have a look at this one. Unless someone's suggesting anything else. I don't think they have. No, so you've tapped into the fitness world. You know what, guys? Can you recommend blogs and stuff that would be interesting to read? Because a lot of this is going to be tech stuff. Because a lot of this stuff I read just to sort of keep up in the tech world. But a lot of this is kind of like really not profound, really not interesting. Like a lot of it is like pulling my eyeballs out of my skull. If anybody's got any interesting tech blogs or any interesting other blogs, I might just go through my follows on Substack and just start adding blogs from there. I already have some of them, like Library of Salino is pretty good. I don't think he released any articles though, so we didn't go through that. Dave's one just sort of stuck in my mind. Okay, success rates of New Year's resolutions. 69% reported that they're still successful time contact after 6 months. 46% remember. Okay. Luke Smith. Luke Smith hasn't actually. Okay, I stopped buying laptops. Okay, that sounds more interesting than this one. Okay. Luke Smith hasn't posted anything in like 2 years. I think he went on. He went on one with he went on some stream the other day. But honestly, I find the Orthodox stuff so annoying at this point. Like I find it difficult to watch. Being an independent journalist, or an office worker, if you will, or you wish, I always reasoned that I need a decent computer and I need to pay for quality. Yep, so bought new, which cost 5,000. Bloody hell. I mean, to be fair, I probably my last laptop, which I bought in like 2018, was I want to say about £1,000 UK. So that's like $1,200 US. I really need to get a new one, to be honest. It's kind of falling apart. I also made the mistake of installing Ubuntu on it. Hence why I'm actually using the family computer to stream this. the family computer being like a custom desktop I bought my wife when she gave birth to our first son. That was about £1,000 itself. Somewhere between getting my office, I decided not to buy any more laptops. 2017, switched to 2006 second-hand machine. Wow. Yeah, so he probably used it sounds like a ThinkPad or something like that. I have a ThinkPad somewhere. I think it's a T64 or T60. I can't remember exactly. I'd got a BIOS upgrade that someone wrote, and I've got 4 gigs of RAM sat in it, and now it's I think my son broke it actually because we used it. I used it as a computer just so I could distract him during work, and what he'd often do is just like log into the BIOS and start pressing the keys because it made funny noises. I've also got another like notebook form factor computer. It cost me about £100, 8 gig of RAM, lying around somewhere. I like the whole cheap laptop thing. Not buying you. Okay, yes, like environmental stuff. I think I'm like one of the few people who just like really doesn't care that much about the environment kind of stuff. Like, of course, I want to keep decent environs around me, but I don't like don't emphasize it as like a point of corporate pride. Each year we purchase around 160 to 200 million laptops. That's a lot of energy. Okay. Laptops don't change. Okay, the study stated... Okay, you forgive them thinking most recently... Okay. 2015 discovered the embodied energy of laptops stacking over time. Assembled 11 laptops the same size. Silicon die. Found a massive material component. Okay, but like we're not concerned... Like, okay. So this is, again, not about whether or not the quantity of the RAM or the speed changes. It's about the quantity of the materials used. Okay, so I mean, okay, this means that there's no environmental or financial benefit whatsoever to replacing old laptops with a new one. But there is a performance one. On the contrary, the only thing consumer can do is improve their laptop's ecological and economic sustainability as useful as possible. Well, yeah, of course. Like, well, I completely agree with the idea that you'd want to use your tools as long as you can. I mean, maybe not. Well, I mean, in theory I would, but in practice I've got this laptop from 2018 sat here. It's starting to fall apart a little bit, and I kind of want to get a new one. But that could just be the passions. Okay, let's have a look at the chat. Okay, I don't know if True Tried Waifu. It's in 10 minutes. What's the annoyance with the Orthodox content? Well, it's just like they're like the thing that irritates me about the Orthodox is like they're like more tradition, but the thing is that like they aren't really familiar with the tradition. It's just entirely a vibe. I mean, I don't think Orthodoxy really makes sense on a level of teaching as well, because you could just like just saying, oh well, the majority affirmed something doesn't mean anything. The world ground and found itself Aryan, like simply because like a majority of people affirm something at some point in history doesn't mean that it has magisterial authority. That's stupid. All this, I mean, there's no reason why we believe this either. It's not in the scripture. All this means is that there's no environmental or financial benefit whatsoever to replacing an old laptop with a new one. Okay. My first laptop, iBook. Bought an iBook. A little more than 2 or 3 years, that's charge light malfunctioning. Has fallen the price and use. Okay. So I refused to buy Apple again because they are ridiculously overpriced. ThinkPad. Here we go. When the charger died, got a ThinkPad. ThinkPad was... yeah, the entire machine was built to last. Yeah, those things are chunky. Like, you could probably beat someone to death with an old ThinkPad. Circular or modular products are all the hype these days. Gradually repairing. Yep, they are very modular as well. They're quite nice. Really? The ThinkPad was more expensive than the iBook? Dude. It's kind of mental. Lenovo ThinkPad. Another ThinkPad. Okay. What did he say about this one? Running a low-tech magazine. Okay, that explains why the upgrade doesn't make huge difference. Yeah, the Lenovo ones aren't as good as the old IBM ones, as far as I'm aware. Case was deformed. Yeah. I mean, there we go. Like, a lot of people said the Lenovo ones were a bit naff. I think I used to have a Lenovo at one point. I think it was an IdeaPad. You need a hammer. Replacement keys, okay. You got a key for €15? Bloody hell. That's like $20 for a keyboard. A keyboard key. It's a rip-off. IBM ThinkPad X60S. Yeah, so that's an older one, I think, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I think the ThinkPads are just, like, built different. Although my son did manage to break my ThinkPad, it now has fan errors. But that's what you get when you put a 1-year-old in front of a laptop, I suppose. Wow. 1.43 kg. I suppose though, are the X60 ones the small ones? I can't remember. Use low energy software. Yeah, of course. Replace the hard disk with a solid state drive. Yeah, I did that with my my ThinkPad. Spare laptops. Oh yeah, you can just disable them and chop and change. Yeah, €285 for all of these. Yeah, non-economical model. Okay, yeah, there we go. I think that's basically it. This one is, I thought there wasn't much to it, to be honest. Anything else? We've got 10 minutes, or I'll just close up early. I think I need a bit of a break, to be honest. This has been kind of an interesting stream. I think I'm going to bring it to a close, actually. What with all of the insanity with my son walking in and switching off the desktop in the middle of the bloody stream. That was quite funny. Yeah. I think I'm going to bring this one to a close. We'll do this again next week, though. In the meantime, if anybody wants to send me any blogs they'd like me to go over, or send me any kind of articles they'd like me to look at, that would be great. If you have me on Discord already, you can do that. If you just post the title, or you might even work with the link, if you just post it in the comment section, that should work as well. But beyond that, yeah, I'm going to just bring this one to a close. Take care, guys.